All right, so this is session 2 of 3. Welcome to the Masterclass. This is Better Each Day. So we're focusing on the alter ego and how the alter ego can help you get through that mountain climbing experience. That's the what we started off in the first version today. So I'm going to share my screen with you here and kind of give you some insights. We talked about Todd Herman, which is an expert at helping you do these incredible things that feel like this, okay? They feel like this mountain climb. If you flip this upside down, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this analogy before, but the valleys that people talk about going through your difficult times in life, that when they feel like you have the most pressure and the pain and the difficulty, before you gain the insights, you have to suffer and have the endurance and the grit and stay in there long enough. You have to stay tucked, time under tension. And right at this point, when you're here, this is at the bottom, but you don't know where it's at. No one tells you that you're at the bottom level of your experience. And so what you have to do is you have to continue to move forward. You have to have the endurance to get to this personal legend. And this is why we talk about why it's so important that you have this as far as where do you want your go? What do you want your personal legend to be? Because when it feels like this, no one wants to keep going. You don't even know if this is the bottom or if it's just going to continue to go. So you have to have this bigger why of where you're trying to reach here, this personal legend that is more important to you than going back and hanging in the valley with the average and mediocre people that find every excuse to lose and to quit and then to cover up their lack of performance with poor excuses. The person that's going to push through this and gain the incredible and invaluable diamond level insights. And, in fact, I'm using the word diamond here because diamonds are created right here, okay? Diamonds are nothing but coal. It's the same molecular structure as the coal that we talk about burning that creates one of our fossil fuels. It's similar to charcoal that you use for a barbecue in the backyard. And you're like, Steve, coal is worthless. It's not worthless. It does create heat and it powers, steam, not steam engines, but steam plants to create electricity and stuff like that. So that's how we use and burn that coal. So it has value, but ultimately a piece of coal is pretty much worthless. I mean, it might be worth a few pennies, but that same atomic structure, molecular structure, is the same thing that creates diamonds. And so the question is what do you want? Do you want to have your life that looks like a piece of coal that ultimately at the end has some value, but it's negligible, okay? Or do you want to stay under pressure longer? That is the only difference between a piece of coal and a diamond, is how much pressure you have endured for time, right? This is our bottom part of our graph here. So the longer you can endure in pressure for a longer period of time, then you create right here diamond experiences that are invaluable. That's what this insight is about. And when you have the grit to continue to go to reach your personal outcome, then your life becomes something of worth, something of value. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because this is the whole part of what we want to do is graduating from this level of unconscious incompetence that too much of our world is satisfied with. And we have to go through this event right here, this bar called the Chiroscene Effect. It's Chiros is the term, if you want to go read Socrates' story called The Cave. The cave was called Ananke, and Ananke translates loosely to status quo, doing things like you've always been doing, being satisfied with no agony, with no pressure, with no effort. When you do that, then that's where you're at. You're in the world of Ananke, okay? That's where you're doing the Netflixing, binging all weekend, and you're never doing anything that's increasing your performance, because that's what we're doing, is we're training to endure this effect here. When Kairos happens, it usually comes from some level of trauma. And the trauma allows you to go to this next level. But the problem is most people, when they get to the trauma, they realize that their incompetence is not the incompetence of other people. It's their personal level of incompetence. It's the fact that they have not been doing enough agonizing, enough suffering, enough determination to do the discipline of the things that just absolutely suck. They hurt. They physically hurt. They mentally aggravate you. They feel frustrating because you don't like going up a mountain that looks like this upside down. Okay. This is a mountain. If you flip this upside down, the mountain peak is actually the point where you think it's the hardest. That's the peak that you're getting to, because if you suffer through this and you have the endurance and the grit to keep time under tension, to endure the pain, then that's where the diamond experiences come from that will eventually produce our outcome that will be legendary. This is a process. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're trying to accomplish. It's the same process. So I'm giving you the mechanism. So when we switch over here and we look at the compass device, okay? So the device, as you know, is one page. I'm giving you, it folds right here, as you can see, along the dotted line. So this is the inside that looks upside down here because it's just a page. So I'm giving you, as you can see, these actually fold 2 more times. So you create a 3-panel outside and a 3-panel inside. So this is the front panel here. And obviously you can see our particular, what do you call this? Not a logo, because this is the logo here, but the idea that this is what we're striving for. So I'm giving you this concept so you can see, oh, this is what we're trying to reach, Steve. Oh, I remember. Okay, so this is the goal that I'm working on becoming, and what I need to do right now are the next actions that will help me move in that direction. So Steve, what are those next actions? What's the goal? Well, you have to find out, first of all, what do you want your legend to be? And if it's a gravestone experience, you got to write down what you want, those 10 words or less. That's what this is designed to do each week, okay? This helps us understand what matters most to us. Then from there, we can work backwards. So this is the end of our life, right? We want our life to have met, but we want to figure out now, who do I need to become in 10 years so that who do I need to become here so that I accomplish this? And then you write down a clue. A clue is you going forward into the future and seeing your future version of yourself. And then you write down a clue while you're in that experience of what it feels like to be that other version of yourself, right? To become who you want to be. So I've given you the back panel here, and I'm giving you Aristotle's perspective that he taught young Alexander the Great. And you get to define who you must be, okay? Who you must become. And then you have to focus on the why. The why, like we talked about just a second ago, is, hang on a second, let me put this back up. Go back to here. The why is here. The why is here, okay, this big legend. It's the gravestone experience. We let you write down in 10 words or less. It's about going to this greater version of yourself, but you have to know why you want to go to that greater version, okay? And you have to be willing to get to this greater version. You have to go through this difficult valley experience of your life. So if you don't have this why, and you don't have something you're going to become, then what will happen when you get to the difficulty and the suffering and the agony? You quit. You quit, and you'll find a reason between your ears to justify why you're going to turn around on the challenge that you decided to go toward, and why you're going to quit and give up. So in order to achieve this, to keep going forward, you have to have a bigger why. And this has to be something that will keep you moving forward. And until you find this, then your life will continue to be average. It will be failure after failure of quitting, not because you went against such a big obstacle and you just didn't achieve it. That's not failure. Failure is when you go against an obstacle, you didn't achieve it, and you give up. That's failure. So when you have a big why, then you keep maintaining your persistency. And you go, Steve, well, why do I maintain my persistency? Well, that's what persistency looks like over time. And you get to this thing and you go, oh, okay, that's what it is. I keep doing the same thing over and over again. I keep doing that P5 system that you talked about, Steve. The prior preparation, planning, and practice produces performance, right? And in doing that prior preparation, planning, and practicing that produces performance, somewhere down the road, we don't know when, then things start to actually benefit you in a geometric or exponential way. And all of a sudden your life becomes super capable. But why? Why does it change? Well, it changes because you gained this diamond level of experience here when things were difficult, okay? You can't expect to turn the corner and go up to this success unless you're willing to go through all of these things. We call it Kaizen. It's the Japanese term for it. But these are the 5 S's that basically produce this mountain level of experience that gives you the confidence to help other people with what? Your insights, your experience. See, people, when they're here and they're arrogant and they're repeating other people's pretty words, I call it parroting, then the problem with that arrogance is they don't have the true diamonds inside of them. They haven't gone through it. They haven't learned how not just to survive it, but to thrive in it. And until you get this inside of your soul, then everything that you're saying is coming from pure arrogance. You don't really know what you're talking about because you haven't experienced it. And that's the reason why I teach this system Better Each Day with the Rubicon manual that I created when I was in my hell experience, because I know what I'm talking about. And it's so interesting to me about how many people talk about wanting to be a success. And then I see how many of them really show up to do the training. And it's staggering. In fact, sometimes I'll tell you it from a teacher's perspective, from an instructor's perspective, from a coach's perspective. It feels many times discouraging because how many people just would rather spend their leisure time, again, surfing Netflix, running through social media, doing things that have no extra insights. They're not anything that's going to allow this kind of experience. And then those are the same individuals that also complain all the time. Steve, I don't know why my performance is so horrible. Well, you might look in the mirror, because at the end of the day, unless you're willing to come and do the training, the planning, the practice, and the preparation, when you get to this hellish experience, is what we were talking about from, he's right here, Todd Herman, okay? How do you get to this next level experience? Well, I'm going to show you this thing, okay? This is what's called, let's go back here to the beginning. Let's see if it gives you the actual beginning. And I'm going to let you see this. Hang on a second. I want to make sure I have my sound optimized. All right, here we go. I'm going to let you watch this other. Hang on a second. Didn't work. There we go. Okay, now it's ready.
For the past 25 years, I've been focused on answering one question. How can I help someone get out of their own way and have all their capabilities show up when it counts? Hi, I'm Todd Herman, author of The Alter Ego Effect and founder of the international training company Herman Performance Systems. I've been releasing the proverbial performance brake on Olympians, leaders, and achievers by crawling around between the 6 inches of their ears and giving them mental game strategies to win for 20 plus years. One of the things I discovered 15 years ago after working with hundreds of elite athletes is that the best of the best, the ones that consistently performed to their capabilities, left themselves on the sidelines and stepped onto the field of play with an alter ego, secret identity, or persona to unleash everything they had. When you're routinely hired to make an impact on someone's performance fast, the last thing you want to do is change someone, because the fear of change is one of the weapons the enemy likes to use to stop you, slow you down, or trip you up. The human mind is a complex network, and trying to attack internal problems directly is the game plan for an epic struggle. Instead, we leverage the superpower you and I are gifted with, the creative imagination. And we tap into its power to transform someone by using an alter ego to achieve excellence. The great thing about this strategy is you already know how to do it, and you did it as a child all the time. You and I just get hammered by the world around us to grow up and act our age, or we begin to worry about what others think of us and we shrink from the opportunities we want to pursue. In my book, I'll reveal just how universal this principle is, and the celebrities, athletes, leaders, and average Joes and Jessicas throughout history and today that have created extraordinary worlds with the help of a secret identity. I'll show you the science of why this works so effectively and how it's the healthiest thing you could do mentally. I'll hand you all the component parts to create your own powerful alter ego, whether you're in sales, the creative arts, business, sports, or personal life. And here's the great part. You don't even need all of them to tap into this innate power, because fundamentally, you already know how to do it. I'm simply here to remind you and show you other ways you may not have thought to use it and reap the tremendous rewards of it. Now, if you'd like more grit, more fun, and less struggle, this is a tiny investment to make that happen, and I want you to do it with me.
Okay, so Todd Herman there talking about his book, The Alter Ego, and the value of having that insight. And here's the beautiful thing that I love about his concept is it is about going back to who we were as children. when we were children, we hadn't had the negative world around us telling us, stop being silly, stop being stupid, stop acting like that superhero and grow up. And then you sit here when you become a grown up, let's say that. And here's the interesting thing that happens. You look at the performance of all the grown-ups and you don't see any ultimate superhero performance. So why do I want to grow up and become like all these other non-performing individuals that can barely get out of their own way, that live a life that is so lackluster that they fail at every time when life becomes chaotic, they crumble and come up with excuses and run back to the valley and hold hands with all the other average, mediocre people. And they all sing Kumbaya together and dance around the fire. And I'm going, why? Why are you dancing? You are a failure. So why do I want to continue to listen to your philosophy, listen to your great insights about dancing around the fire, celebrating your lack of capability? That's the thing that kind of went off in my head 35 years ago and started my quest on not doing what everyone else is doing, which is dancing in the valley around a fire, acting like a, let's just use a nice word, a failure. Okay, that's a nice word. Okay, so what do we have to do? Well, like Todd's talking about here, it's about the 6 inches between your ears. Okay, it's about the gray matter here, and it's not even about all of this. It's about little portions of our brain that allow us to create and access our superhuman creativity. That's the beautiful thing. Like I wanted him to say it instead of me. You don't have to become a different person. You don't have to change. You have to let the inner child, that one that believed, I mean, how many times have you heard a child when you say, you know, they're 4 or 5 years old, maybe they're 7, and you go, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you see the stars in their eyes and they're like, I want to be an astronaut. I don't know why that shows up all the time, okay? But I think it's something about us as human beings, about being able to go out among the stars and doing something that is so otherworldly. I mean, our astronauts are the best and the brightest specimens of who we are as human beings. They go through, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of psych profiles, physical profiles. They basically have to have a perfect score on every test they've ever taken, starting at kindergarten and go through all the different levels of college. Many of them have PhDs. Many of them are professors even at that level because they have lived a life of learning their entire life. And they don't accept anything less than a 4.0 GPA. And so you're like, wow, well, what if I can't do 4.0, Steve? What if I'm a 2.5 student? Okay. What if that's my level of performance? Okay. The answer is, and I've studied this before many times, is when they've looked at individuals that are performers and they watch the test taking. This is the true ground where you get the insight. And I'm going to give this to you, and it's going to sound like this is racial, but it's not. Okay. I'm going to tell you what the test said, not what I say. And what it has noticed in different races of individuals, they notice that it's not that they perform better. It's that certain groups have a culture within their race that doesn't give up. You can go search this online. I'm not even going to go through and depict the different races and how they go in, because I don't want someone to say, Steve, you're being a racist. I'm giving you statistical analysis, okay? And here's the interesting thing. I'm going to use Asians as just one race, and I'm going to tell you why they perform on the STEM test, okay? And we're talking about the difficult part, the math, the science, okay? And it's interesting when they look at the other races, they give them the same test. This is a group of mixed individuals, and they watch how soon their pencil goes down on the desk from filling out the little bubble scantrons. And the individuals that you have to take the pencil out of their hand and go, time's up, stop performing, are who? It's generally Asian. I'm just telling you what the stats say. They don't quit. They keep going and going and going They don't blow up. They don't get mad at themselves because they get a part of a test and they realize, wow, I didn't prep enough for this. Life is over. I quit, pencil down. And then they blow up. They go, I'll leave that. I keep going through the test, finding the areas that I am well prepared for, knock those out as fast as I can so I get as many right answers as I can to move my grade point, right? And then I do what? I don't put my pencil down when I still have an hour left of testing time. I don't quit. I go back to the area that scared me. I go back to the area that was hard. I go back to the area that I'm not as good in. And I use the extra time and I continue to use the gray matter here. And I put everything in there. I use deductive reasoning. I use whatever test taking skills I can, but they keep going. And that's what I showed you graphically early on in this presentation, is that performance over time, when it turns, it doesn't turn until down the road somewhere. It's called the hockey stick effect, okay? And the reason for that is that success is not made to be easy. Therefore, it would not have any value. It's like if everyone had diamonds, diamonds would no longer be rare because they would no longer be scarce. They're scarce because everyone can go get a bucket of coal. So what? I got a bucket of coal. I got a house full of coal. No one cares. Because why? Because coal doesn't have any value. Yeah, you can burn it, and like I said, it can help power a few things. It can provide some heat. Maybe you can cook with it. Yes, all that. But ultimately, that little bitty piece of coal with lots of heat and pressure and time turns into this little rock, and everybody wants one. But you can't find very many of them. Why? Because the time, the heat, the pressure that has to go through in order to convert that worthless coal into a very worthy level of coal called a diamond is something that most people don't want to put up with. They don't want to deal with the hell. They don't want to live with the agony and the pain. That's why we start this course with the most important thing is the big why. The big why is the thing that will fuel you inside when you're on the side of the mountain and your legs are killing you and your lungs feel like they're blowing up and they're on fire and your whole body's hurting because you've been climbing for so long and you feel like, oh, man, I'm not ever going to make it. I thought I could make it to that summit, but I'm not going to make it. And you have all that chatter that starts in the back of your head and you come up with all these reasons why it's okay because all your friends are back in the valley. They're dancing around the fire and they're having, I don't know, a wonderful glass of wine and sitting around and doing a whole lot of nothing. And they're waiting for you to come back and hang out with them. And they're not going to be upset at you. They're going to welcome you with open arms. And you can hang out with these wonderful peers and it's going to be okay. And a lot of people acquiesce and they give in and their soul craters and they break. To me, the whole value of talking about Todd Herman and using the compass to find out what is your bigger goal, what is your why, and then putting yourself in that level of gratefulness about the agony that you're going through. And you're like, Steve, you are psychotic. What are you talking about? Being grateful for chaos? And the answer is you can't grow to the next level unless you go through the hell. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you a secret path, a tunnel that could go underneath it. You could dance around it, or you could click your heels like what was the Wizard of Oz?
Was it Rumpelstiltskin? No.
No, she clicked her heels in Wizard of Oz.
Oh, Dorothy.
Dorothy, yeah, went back to Kansas with Toto. Okay, I wish I could tell you that there was that secret clicking of the heels. Heck, if I knew a way, I would wear a red pair of heels if I could click those and they would go take me back around the difficulty. But here's the thing. If you go around hell, if you go around the difficulty, you can't sit later and help other people with a level of confidence that you know what you're talking about because you don't have the experience. You don't have the insights. You can't say, I can relate to your pain. Maybe not the exact same pain that someone else is going through, but you can relate to pain, suffering, agony, because if you have done Olympic level performance, not because you won the gold necessarily the first time you went, but because you went up the mountain and you didn't quit and you got to the summit. And when you get to the summit, guess what you have? You have a very small group of individuals there, and there is a bonfire, and they have a very incredible level of wine there. And the wine is called experience. And you get to savor that, and you get to sip it, and you get to smell the bouquet, and you get to savor isn't the right thing. Go ahead.
You get to keep it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you have the diamond because the diamond is inside of you. Okay. And that's the whole thing that Todd's talking about, the alter ego. It's already inside of you. What do you have to do to activate it? Well, in Todd's case, he started putting on a pair of glasses early in his career, very much like Superman took his glasses off because that was his disguise. He was already a superhuman from another planet called Krypton. So he put on the glasses that made him look very nerdy and a little ignorant, like, what was his name? Clark Kent, okay? Put on the suit and worked at the Daily Planet, I think, if I'm right, or maybe that's Spider-Man that worked there. But anyway, he worked at some newspaper, right? He was a clumsy guy, and Lois Lane, was his, I don't know, his squeeze, that's an old term, his person that he was infatuated with, okay? Oh, she was amazing. She was this super, right? And so here's this great storyline. But now all of a sudden, when a plane's falling out of the sky, he runs into the telephone booth, right? And takes off his glasses, right? And takes off his suit. And there's his uniform, okay? So what Todd Herman is doing is basically reverse engineering. He's saying in the same fashion, he puts on his glasses, right? Because it activates something in his head. It's very like a talisman, like every day when I put on my not dead, can't quit dog tag, okay? It's the same thing when I have my touchstone, my challenge coin on my mouse pad all day, every day when I'm working here and I'm thinking about how I can help you, how I can bring value to you. And I get tired, I get worn out. And literally sometimes my eyes now at 54, I'm looking at these big 27-inch screens and I can't see the screens anymore because my eyes are worn out and I have to quit. But this helps me push to that level that I literally get to a point where I physically can't go any further because I can't see my screen. Now, why? You have to have a why. This not dead, can't quit. This is what goes on my gravestone. And when you say, Steve, why does that matter most? Because not dead, can't quit creates that value that I feel in my life makes me worthy of my children's admiration, makes them go, wow, my dad did Olympic level performance. Why? Because many times his life went wrong, went bad, went against the way it was supposed to go. And not dead, can't quit. He had this talisman. That was his superhuman strength. That was his ability to perform when everybody else decided, too tough, I quit. So that's our mechanics for today, focusing on how to do that extra effort. So we're going to jump back on here in about 30 seconds, and we're going to do the last third section of the masterclass today. And it's focused on the actual training manual itself called P5. And we'll see you in 60 seconds.